All right, so move on to the next segment. We're going to pivot over here to the world of boxing, and I'll be sharing my thoughts on the failed negotiations currently happening in the sport of boxing between some of the biggest names that the super welterweight division at 154 has to offer between Jaron, Ennis, and Vergil Ortiz Jr. Guys, I'm not happy. This is a fight that should be made officially that we should be seeing at some point in 2026 between some of the two top names at 154 between Jaron Ennis and Vergil Ortiz. So honestly, it's a shame we'll probably have to wait longer to see Jaron Ennis and Vergil Ortiz fight each other. Like, these are the two biggest names at 154 at the super welterweight division that we have in the sport of boxing today. What is the true holdup between Jaron Ennis and Vergil Ortiz not fighting each other? Like, these are two fighters that are in the prime of their careers. This is why the sport of boxing is so complicated, because sometimes fans have to wait the waiting game or the negotiation game to see fighters fight each other in the prime of their careers. And we could be looking at the next scenario, unfortunately, between Jaron Ennis and Vergil Ortiz, two fighters in the prime of their careers, the fight is being stalled out due to negotiation problems. And I see one promoter that promotes Jaron Ennis, Eddie Hearn. He's doing everything he can to make this fight. Then I'm looking at the promoter that represents Vergil Ortiz. I'm looking at Oscar De La Hoya like he's playing the numbers game to avoid Vergil Ortiz getting in the ring against Jaron Ennis. And the videos that I've seen, Eddie Hearn's had a great idea. They're talking about two of the best fighters at 154, two of the biggest names at this division. Why not do a 50-50 split with the winner earning an additional 5% of the loser's purse? So that's a 55-45 split for the winner. What's the holdup? That's a great agreement, because Eddie Hearns believes his guy can win. Oscar really doesn't believe Vergil can win, because Oscar's trying to put himself out of the negotiations by outpricing Eddie Hearn by wanting a 60-40 split. And he's threatening to work with Al Heyman and the PBC for Vergil Ortiz to have other big fights at this division. That's bullshit to me. And you're supposed to give your fighter the fight that he wants. Why would you give him a Sebastian Findor world title opportunity? Throwing Sebastian Findor's name out there, knowing he's got obligations to defend that title anyway right now against Keith Thurman, and you really want Vergil Ortiz Jr. to fight Earl Spence, who's been inactive for nearly 3 years at AT&T Stadium in Dallas? You're just purposely outpricing Vergil Ortiz because you're trying to secure his zero. I hate that about boxing. We can no longer try to protect fighters. Oh, you're either going to prove that you're the best, or fighters are going to step aside and want to see the fighters fight the best of the best. And unfortunately, Oscar really doesn't believe in Vergil. And it's getting to the point where Vergil Ortiz and his manager are suing Golden Boy Promotions. They want out of Vergil Ortiz's contract with Golden Boy Promotions because Oscar De La Hoya is not doing the right thing as promoter. Guys, the thing is, Oscar De La Hoya seems to me that he's a complicated promoter. This is not the first time that he has had problems promoting problems with another fighter. Look at Canelo Alvarez. He got out of his Golden Boy Promotions clause because Canelo was not fulfilling the promises that Oscar De La Hoya had for him when he was under contract with Golden Boy. So he eventually split up from Golden Boy, and his contract was terminated. Then you can honestly go back to how Oscar De La Hoya has done business with Ryan Garcia over the last couple years, because honestly, Ryan Garcia bypassed Oscar De La Hoya's permission to make that Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis fight happen in the first place. If you guys remember, it was Oscar trying to throw in some silly negotiations where Ryan was trying to be the A side, even though him and Tank were on the same playing field in terms of superstardom in the sport. But Ryan had to go behind Oscar De La Hoya's back to make that fight between himself and Gervonta Davis happen. And Ryan's lawyers and advisors were the ones who oversaw the rehydration and the catchweight clauses in that clause between himself and Gervonta Davis. And Oscar De La Hoya did not come out and say Ryan breached his contract, making the fight without him being involved. That happened, right? So how can you say that Vergil Ortiz is breaching his contract trying to get his promoter to work out a deal with Eddie Hearns to make this fight happen, but you had nothing to say when Ryan did that behind your back because you were getting that money and it was a good investment for your end. You guys see what I'm saying? Oscar is not that type of guy that you want to do business with, in my opinion. Like, yeah, he has a good stable. Golden Boy Promotions is a good promotion. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want to see any promoter go out of business because that just hurts boxing. But you guys got to see where I'm coming from here. Oscar is just so invested of making sure that Vergil Ortiz keeps his zero intact, possibly to the point where he's outpricing his own fighter on purpose. And Vergil has never even been a world champion. Like, what are we talking about? I'm not saying Jaron Ennis is the biggest cash cow in the sport, but overall accomplishments, Jaron Ennis was a former unified welterweight champion before moving up to 154. He held the WBA and the IBF title with the Ring Magazine title. So I think doing a 50-50 split with the winner getting the additional 5% of the loser's purse, overall being a 55-45 split, that's fair game. Not a 60-40 and you threaten other names saying we could fight Sebastian Fundora. Fundora has a title obligation against Keith Thurman. Nothing is promised in boxing. You really want to fight Earl Spence, who would be making his debut at 154, who's been inactive for 2.5, 3 years after the Crawford loss. That seems like you're purposely outpricing yourself and using a scapegoat to make sure that Vergil Ortiz doesn't have to wait for Jaron Ennis' fight. I think that's bullshit. But Oscar should know this, that fans are getting impatient to see this fight. Like, this is the one. And this is why I say people don't take boxing serious as they used to back in the heydays in the 90s, the early 2000s, the Floyd era, because of reasons like this. Like, why is one promoter purposely outpricing the other so this fight doesn't happen? Like, do we really want to see, like, I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I would rather see Jaron Ennis fight Vergil Ortiz rather than him fight Jermell Charlo, another fighter that's been inactive for 2.5, 3 years. Like, I think these two are honestly the best fighters at this division. They just don't have the world titles. And I think this fight sells without a world title. So why would we wait for Jaron Ennis to collect championship gold that's going to take a year or two for him to get titles? Same with Vergil. So that's putting this fight on the back end. Possibly waiting for another 2.5, 3 years to make this fight happen when we're ready to go now. Two undefeated powerhouse fighters and the prime of their careers. Both of them put asses in seats. Both of them are knockout artists. Both of them would give us one hell of a show. I just don't understand why promoters hold up the fighters. And it's getting to the point where Vergil Ortiz could be iced, guys, because he signed a multi-year contract with Golden Boy Promotions back in 2024. So he's on contract, and it would be very complicated for him to get out of this deal with Golden Boy Promotions because he's under contract. And we just saw Ryan Garcia wasn't able to escape his deal with Golden Boy Promotions. Like, he still got one fight left on the deal, but he was trying to get it out of his contract after the Gervonta Davis loss. Like, guys, it's a very unfortunate that we might not get this fight next. It's looking like we're probably not going to get this fight next. Now that the fact that Vergil Ortiz and his manager have sued Golden Boy Promotions, and Oscar De La Hoya is saying that Vergil Ortiz breached his contract trying to do a fight behind his back. So it's unfortunate, but it seems like we might have to wait a little longer for this fight. If we do have to wait longer, I'd like to see Jaron Ennis fight the winner of the Alexander Zayas and the Abis fight, when those two fighters, January 31st, unified for the WBA and the WBO titles of this division. I'd like to see Vergil go on and fight Baccarin for the IBF title, or, like Oscar said, wait for the winner of Sebastian Fundora and Keith Thurman for the WBC title. I think it's just very frustrating because you can honestly add this fight to one of the mega fights that should be made in 2026, but due to promotion complications, seems like we're going to have to wait longer. So those are my thoughts on the failed negotiations that are going on right now between Jaron Ennis and Vergil Ortiz Jr.